Okay, my name is Deputy Chief David Morris. I'm the Deputy Chief of Operations. Today we are here to address a recent series of gun violence that occurred in the city of Roanoke over the past weekend. And just to quickly recap those incidents, a young man was shot and killed on Melrose Avenue Northwest early Saturday morning. 2 young men were shot at a business on Hirschberger Road Northwest approximately an hour after the homicide on Saturday morning. Last night, a young man was shot and killed inside a residence on 18th Street Northwest. These incidents all have something in common. All 4 victims of gun violence over this weekend were teenagers. Though some were legally adults, they were still teenagers. Please keep their families of these young men in your thoughts, whether their loved ones were injured or lost a life, and their lives have been changed significantly. Up next will be Deputy Chief Stokes.
My name is Jerry Stokes. I'm the Deputy Chief over our Investigative Services Bureau. These are ongoing investigations, and I can't really share specific details, but I can tell you a few things that we are following every lead that comes into our department. In addition to our detectives working diligently on these investigations, we have requested assistance from the Virginia State Police and the Federal Bureau of Investigation to assist us in following all these leads that we are trying to determine the suspects in this incident. Our reset team will be out this week in those neighborhoods to speak with the residents and provide information on services available should anyone who has been impacted by this need additional assistance. Many folks might be saying, what can I do to help with gun violence? And we know that there are numerous witnesses that saw what occurred in each of the 3 incidents over the weekend. We need you to call us and let us know what you saw. If you see something, you need to say something. There are ways to speak with or send us information anonymously as well. And we need every member of our community to be part of reducing gun violence in our city. Mayor Lee will now speak.
Thank you. This is a very sad day and sad time in our city. And as the acting chief just said, that it's going to take everybody to help us solve these crimes. And we have some information here for you to do that. But again, as we've mentioned a number of times, everybody in the community that has some information needs to share that information. And we have the tip line that you can share that. That number is 540-344-8500. And you can text us at 274637. And please begin with the text with Roanoke PD to ensure that it's properly sent, and know that both calls, texts will remain anonymous. But my heart goes out to the families that are involved here, and I can only say that, as I know the police department, and as was mentioned, the state police and others will be involved in trying to solve these horrific crimes. So we'll just continue to do what we have, or what we're working and doing in the community, and to make sure that our city remains safe. And I have the utmost confidence in our police department and law enforcement that that can be done. But as we go through these, in many cases, senseless types of acts of gun violence, I want the city to to recognize that we're doing all that we can and will continue to work hard. On behalf of City Council, we want to make sure that we'll be doing and what we can to make sure our streets and communities are safe. Thank you. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Cobb will speak. Also neglected to mention a piece that Sheriff Hash has committed his community engagement team to assist tomorrow with our reset walk, so they'll be assisting us then.
Thank you, sir, and thank you, Mayor. The sense of loss that we are feeling in this moment is profound. Our family, our human family here in Roanoke, the fabric of that has been torn and broken. And we've experienced the loss of loved ones that we really can't express our depth of grief. I do want to share some resources that are available in our community, whether it's the families directly impacted or those who are neighbors, other members in the city who are feeling the trauma and tragedy and weight of this loss. And this information will be available following the press conference and will be shared out through social media as well. Some local community supports. You can access trauma resources by calling 211. Total Action for Progress, their Hope line, which is 777-HOPE. Social Services, Fed Up, which supports families who have experienced loss due to gun violence. Their number is 797-6295. And for additional mental health support, we encourage you to reach out to Blue Ridge Behavioral Health, 343-3007. Family Service of Roanoke Valley, 563-5316. And Carillion Connect, 981-8181. Thank you.
We can take a few questions briefly.
I was going to ask, are you able to provide us with an age range? I know you said they were all teenagers, though some were adults.
They are between the age of 15 and 19.
For the cookout, the shooting near that business, we're first told there was an adult and a juvenile, but they're both kind of in that teenage range, so it's not like an adult that's like 30, 40.
Correct. In all four victims from this weekend, both the two young men who died and the two young men who were shot at the cookout and did not die, they were all between the age of 15 and 19.
For you guys as law enforcement, what does this past weekend and everything we've seen, especially that it's focused on juveniles or targeting juveniles, what does that show you guys? Is there anything that speaks to you that shows maybe something different needs to be done, or how you're handling it?
Right. So we definitely are examining our resources to see exactly what we can do to target some of these people that are involved in these gun violence incidents. Remember, the city's 3 ways of addressing gun violence is through intervention and prevention. I'm sorry, let me start over. The city's way of addressing gun violence: prevention, intervention, and then there's the justice piece. We're obviously mostly involved in the justice piece. So we want to see all these pieces to work together. So we want to see these kids prevented from going into this type of lifestyle where they could, one, either become a victim or become someone who is perpetrating violence. So we are touched by this as well. We certainly, it's one of the toughest things for cops to ever go to is seeing someone who is young like that and has a life ahead of them to be cut down or even injured like the two at the cookout, where that's going to impact their life forever. So that's always impactful for an officer to have to kind of deal with that, and we want to see those folks get justice.
You mentioned the reset team and them going to work. What evidence do you have about the efficiency of this team and what they're doing?
Right, so the team is there to engage with the community to hopefully do a couple of different things. One of those is hopefully solicit some information. We want, that is a piece of what they do. If you see something or know something, or even if it's a small piece, we need to have that information. The other piece of that is, kind of like the Vice Mayor mentioned, these are some of the resources to help you as community members to deal with the impact of gun violence in your neighborhood. So that is what Reset's intention is to do. And it also, we hope that it is giving the community a sense that, the city and the police department are being proactive in trying to address the violence that has occurred in their community, so that they hopefully will be less fearful that it could happen again.
Now, I was speaking with some community members earlier today who were speaking to me about how they want to see, more trauma-informed training before these shootings can occur, because, going afterwards is great for healing, but a lot of the people who commit acts of gun violence are already hurting. Do you think there's any way we can get in ahead of time? What kind of resources do we have in that aspect?
So that's something the Vice Mayor is involved a lot in, and he can speak on that.
We have previously, through the commission, hosted a number of trauma basics workshops, and our intention is to expand those. The key is making sure that a diverse community and as many people as possible have access to those resources. We have also, through partnerships, provided on-site trauma counseling that's available at several of our regional housing authority communities, and that's making a profound difference in the terms of people not only feeling like mental health support and trauma counseling is helpful to them, but it's changing the course of their life. I will also add that a new support group that was launched by Fed Up, Families Experiencing Deliverance Using Prayer, is the numbers of people attending that are increasing significantly, not only adults but youth. They are increasing their access to mental health support at those events, and that support includes trauma counseling. So it's like a cyclical thing. We need increased trauma-informed counseling. We're part of a trauma-informed care network here in the city, and so a lot of our agencies are already trained in that, as our mental health providers are. We need to find ways to continue to increase that on the front end in terms of prevention, but also on the responsive end.
Joe, we knew that, Joe might be able to answer this, we knew that with school getting out, these incidents might increase. Does that mean that the summer programs we have in place aren't working, or there just aren't enough people participating in those programs? Talk to me about.
I have no doubt the summer programs are working, and I think they're very effective. They're not only providing means for prevention but intervention. Not knowing the full extent of why these incidents occurred, because the investigation is underway, it's hard for any of us, I think, to determine what the factors are. The communication of these programs has been very robust, and I believe that as many people as possible have access to these programs. We're always open for ways to expand that and increase that information. But I don't think these convey or take away from the effectiveness of the summer programs that are underway. I think the challenge of what we've seen this past year in terms of incidents, and I'm speaking about the past year, not about current, is that a lot of these incidents have been, people have known one another. It's not strangers committing crime against strangers, but people that know each other.
Do we know if any of the youth involved in these most recent incidents have been set up with or identified as at risk via Reset mentorships or Star City safety initiatives?
Actually, yes. One of the victims in these incidents had been offered services and had been a bit engaged with some of those services. Unfortunately, we were having some difficulty with follow-through. So kind of shows you when you look at that one can certainly imagine, had there been some follow-through by the young man, that maybe he wouldn't be in the place where he is today. So that's why it's very important that we get those services to people. That's also within the umbrella, we talked a little bit about the walks with Reset, but it's also within the umbrella of the mentoring and the, the intervention and prevention piece is in that umbrella as well, and directing those kids to where they need to be, and the number of things that the Vice Mayor spoke about. So yes, unfortunately, we did have one of the victims we had touched, but it wasn't as effective, obviously, as it could have been. Always can do better, and that's what we're trying to do, make sure that we do touch these kids and that we continue to engage with them to try and get them deeper involved in what the programs that are available for them.
Chief, let me say something.
Yes, sir.
As it relates to this in juvenile, because as you know, this council just voted on a juvenile curfew. And this was the exact part of concern that we had, especially those who are 16 and younger, about safety and being out at certain hours of the night. That's what we were trying to do. And I'm hoping that we'll continue to do that, that will identify those young people who will then be put or progressed into those programs that we have. But it's about curfew, staying out, it's about safety. That's what we were concerned with, not about taking anybody's fun or summer fun, but safety, because we're committed to making sure our people are safe, and especially young people during this time of year, because school's out now, they're on the street. And so that was a point that we were making, and I'm sure council, most of them will be saddened to see that they're 15 years old that are involved in this. But we have to keep working. But that's the whole point of our juvenile curfew, for safety, and to make sure that people are safe and not on the streets late at night. And that's what we'll continue to look at that, and we'll be reviewing that as a council to see where we are and how can we strengthen that program.
Are any of the youth that have been involved going to face disciplinary action as a result of being out past curfew?
Well, that's yet to be determined. That's yet to be determined. With the police department, who we're working with us closely, we'll look at that. And our intent was not to arrest kids and put them, in a facility, but it's to say, hey, you need to get off the streets, and we hopefully will have parents and family members involved in this who, it's my feeling, they should know where their kids are at this time of night. But that's what we hope to happen, that we take that action and be very aggressive in doing that, because there's a danger. There's a danger. And I want to assure the public that we were sincere in our decision about a curfew to make sure that our kids are safe as best we can, as best we can. We can only do so much. Mom, dad, guardians have to do a lot. And I've always said that if there's ever a time a parent needs to be a parent, it's now. It's right now in these homes. So it's just a tragedy that we have to deal with, but as council, Vice Mayor and the council will continue to work to do all that we can do, and trauma seems to be a part of what we go through now. And I just, as mayor, I'm just concerned with that, just concerned with those kinds of incidents that continue to occur. There was a lull in this for a while, but all of a sudden it turns around. And so we'll look at that, and as our police department investigates this, we'll find out more about what are some of the things that we can do to prevent this from happening. Thank you.
Since the curfew was brought up, can we talk about its effectiveness since being passed by City Council? Has the police department been able to find youth that have been on the streets and possibly take them home or talk to
the curfew's not effective till July 1.
And how are we gonna go about finding these youth? I know I spoke to someone on the phone today that was kind of worried about what if someone looks older or younger than the age they actually are.
Anytime that the police have an interaction with someone, it has to be based on reasonable suspicion, and the officer would have to articulate facts to stop someone solely for a curfew violation that they are within the parameters of the curfew as, age-wise. So, I mean, that's just, and most likely case is that we would interact with some child because they were involved in some other criminal activity, finding out that they're underage, and therefore directing them to the needed services because they, might be involved in something else. So could be that we just see a kid walking down the street at 3 in the morning, then we would need to articulate that why we felt they were underage to stop and verify their age. But if they are involved in something else, obviously we are able to verify their age at that point.
They've got time for a couple more questions, guys, and then I gotta get them out of here. So, in the last couple of cases, we've noticed folks either self-transported to the hospital or just not being cooperative with investigators. Does that indicate that there's a threat to them in the community, and what kind of threat could that be?
I don't know that specifically indicates that there is a threat. Always are concerned if there could be retaliation. It certainly is a concern that we have. But unfortunately, sometimes the lifestyle kind of alludes for people to not want to cooperate.
And clearance rates were, as far as homicides go, were 100% until June, and then in June we kind of fell off of that track that we were on. What happened? Was it just schools getting out? What challenges are you now facing?
I don't know that you can correlate those two together, quite frankly. I mean, it's just a matter of gathering information. So you're just talking about now 3 incidents that we have not cleared within the same month. That doesn't mean that we're not making progress, that we won't make an arrest. Sure, it's always best to quickly make an arrest on an incident like this. Well, that's what our goal is. But detectives are actively working those cases. I wouldn't say they're cold or anything like that. We are progressing on those investigations, and we certainly anticipate that we'll close those as well.
My last question would be, what's your message to the community? How can they help you advance and stop the gun violence in the city?
Right, become involved. Again, see something, say something. It doesn't even matter if you think it's a minor, small piece. It may be that little piece that we need to put something together to make an arrest. And if you are experiencing any sort of trouble or concerns about this, again, Vice Mayor has discussed a number of resources that are available out there for you to assist as needed.
I apologize if I'm making you repeat something. Are there any updates in terms of having suspects in these cases?
Right now, we're not in a position to, kind of say that. It's very early in the investigation. Pretty long weekend, and the detectives are still kind of going through the information and evidence at this point. Okay, thank you.